Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hire Moment Mastermind. I'm Shira Litzar, happy to be your host and joined by my trusted colleagues, Vern Schellinger and Alki Thompson. The three of us will be supporting you and answering your job search questions. Just quick, since Jackie, you are new, we'll just share a little bit about our backgrounds. I am a recruiter and a career coach. Vern is a former HR executive and a career coach, and Alki is a recruiter and also does some career coaching, as I understand. And so we sit on both sides of the hiring aisle. We have great perspective, very well-rounded. And our job here today is to answer your questions. Whatever question you have in your job search, from your resume and interviewing and networking and all the things, we'll do our very best to address them. And then time permitting, we will, these days we've been doing more networking amongst the group here, so that you all can help each other and, leverage your networks, because that is the way people are getting jobs. In fact, I'm going to actually start with two little statistics that I think will be helpful, one of which I've shared before, and just to kind of kick things off. So the latest stat is that, if you're ready for this, only 3% of online applications result in an interview these days. That should be kind of dramatic for you. If you're thinking that you're getting your job through the job board, please think again. Only 3% make it to an interview. And the other stat that I found out recently is that 7% of applicants are referred by other people. However, they result in 40% of the hires. Let me say that again. Only 7% of applicants are referred by others, but they result in 40% of the hires. That's the stat that you need to hang on to, because that actually justifies what the three of us have been saying forever, especially now. Networking, 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 networking. People like to hire people they know, like, and trust. When your trusted colleague refers you in, nothing like it. The employer loves that. They feel trusted. They feel safe. They feel like it's a quality referral. And it matters. And especially matters if you are trying to do some sort of career pivot of any sort. When your resume doesn't quite line up with the job, when you get referred in by a third party, then they're more likely to consider you as the creative hire because you come from a trusted source. I think I might have mentioned last time my brother-in-law, he was doged, and he was federal government. He ends up reconnecting with one of his old colleagues who had moved to we now call it the Department of War, but he came from a regular agency. He's a procurement guy. So he gets considered for this role, even though he didn't have this one particularly important procurement DOW skill set. He got hired anyway because of the strength of the relationship. His colleagues like, look, you got to consider Danny. He's really great. He'll learn it. But had it just gone on the strength of his resume, he probably wouldn't get hired, because a resume is just skill, 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 and you're an unknown quantity to them. You're a big risk, and all they can do is vet you on your resume. But if a trusted referral says, trust me on this one, you got to interview Michael, oftentimes Michael will have a greater chance because of the relationship, because he's a trusted person. He's not just a resume, right? So that's my opening little speech. Algie and Vern, anything you want to share about that, just to, riff off of that topic?
Well, the one thing I will share is if any of you want to get a little bit of feedback on your current level of networking skills, in the chat, I will post a link to the Contacts Count Networking Competency Assessment, and you will get a score on 8 specific competencies that are related to building relationships. And with that score, it'll give you some insight into where you've got some strengths, maybe some areas where you need to think about. But it's all about, as Shira has said, building relationships. And that's what Contacts Count is all about. Make your contacts count. And they can really help you in the job search, as Shira just gave you in a couple of examples. So
Absolutely. And Vern sends that out for free all the time. And it's a really great resource to understand your own level of networking. Thanks, Vern.
I, and I think with those percentages, that job seekers really need to think about that. And I'm curious. I'm not going to open this up. You can do it the way you want. Sure, it's your call, but I'm curious. This could be rhetorically curious on this call. How that sinks in for you all who are in the job search. For us, Shira and I, especially, and even Vern, but Shira and I, recruiting wise, we know that when we recruit, depending on how much we advertise or market, we could have a lot of candidates, a few candidates, but even then, if there's only one role, there's one role. So we're looking for one person ultimately. So we come in thinking like 1% of the pool, 0.5%, less than that is going to actually get the role. So we think in small percentages because we know, yeah, there's a lot of people out there. Job seekers, there's a lot of opportunities out there. And you look at the role and you may think, oh, I got a 50% chance of getting this, 80% chance, but the number in applying is actually smaller, to Shira's point. So I'm curious, rhetorically, when you go in and you're thinking about applying online, how much of your time are you spending doing that versus just going ahead and getting it in your mind? And we talk about this so much on the call. Percentages like that really make it kind of hit home like, wow, why am I spending 50% of my time then doing that versus trying to find an avenue, even though it's not easy, trying to find an avenue, which brings me to my second point, which is what avenues and lanes and pools are you swimming in then? Because when I hear those percentages, it tells me, okay, 3%, 7%, and 40%. Wow. That means they go with what people say, the referrals, recommendations, who they know. It's a who you know business, but right now I think it's more so this time. When things settle down, maybe it'll change. We're living in quite the time right now, but right now is really who do you know, because it's a small little window that people are going to get through. So it really, I think I would be spending my time, and I'm preaching this everywhere right now. What groups are you in? What new groups? Because and it's hard work. It's not easy, but instead of spending so much time online looking, what new groups, if all of your groups are old and stale and not producing the referrals, that means you should be finding new groups. Look online, look everywhere, and just
It
find
was
new
yours,
groups. Go to
Jackie,
new
that
things.
found us. New group.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael.
So my numbers defy the numbers you've outlined here. And I think it may be because what I call the post-apply process. So last year, I've applied to 200 jobs. I got 41 interviews and got to the final round 14 times and got declined. But I just don't apply. After I apply on the company site,
Right.
I look up who could be the recruiter or the hiring manager, and ChatGPT will give me 3 or 4 people.
Right.
Then I look up who's the CIO, CTO, VP of talent acquisition, and I send them an email with my information. And then I look, do I have a connection in that company?
Yes.
And if they could put a referral in, I give them a second email address. So therefore, they don't see I've already applied.
And
so
that,
the numbers are a little different.
And that, Michael, is actually this, and thank you for bringing that up, because that's actually the second tier down from what we just shared. Because what you just emphasize here is still the power of networking. You didn't just rely on the strength of your resume to get you noticed. You went the extra mile. Hey, here's a live posting. Who in my network actually could help get me in? So frankly, that's almost reemphasizes the point. It wasn't that you went to the hidden job market, but you said, who can be my internal champion? And you approached it from all these different ways. And that absolutely is best practice. So thank you for bringing that up, because it's not that nobody gets hired. It's true. Some do, but you do have to take those extra measures. I know, not for nothing, what they do also say is, Michael, in addition to finding the internal champion and doing all the gymnastics, also, I think you might have implied this, also apply on the corporate website.
Oh yeah, that's first.
That's huge, because that's actually those resumes who get there typically are seen. They may not be seen on the job board because the employer gets 250, 500, whatever resumes. And Alki talks about this, that the recruiter only has time to look at the first number, right? And then they just stop. They're just overwhelmed. Whereas on the website, they'll typically take the time, sort of uniquely, because most people don't apply it that way. So all these different things can matter. And yes, the going after the internal champion is pretty important.
Yeah, because when I started looking for my next opportunity last 2 Januaries ago, I was told, don't send emails out like that because they'll make you look desperate. In May, I decided, what's the worst they're going to do is delete it. They're not going to remember Michael and Art. And the first day I did it, the CTO forwarded my email to the executive recruiter. I got a call 5 hours later, set up an interview for the next day.
Right.
So they'll forward it.
Highly recommend
it. A lot of people want to help.
Yep. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And you're also, not to take your story notches down, because you're putting in the work, and everybody should be doing that. But in your industry too, they're a little bit different, because you guys are rare. You're more rare in the market. Your skill set, your background is more rare. Typically too, you guys recognize skill set, like, wow, this guy's available. We need those technical skills or leadership in our, in this space. They respond because they also have like a get and grab mindset in your space too. There's a lot of contractors. There's a lot of consultants as well. Not to take away from the work you put in, because that's exactly what I preach to all industry candidates and job seekers, is the work that you're doing. But yeah, industry and market have a lot to do with it too. So you take, just some marketing person that's highly saturated right now, and a lot of the other people we have on the call, but still, to Shira's point, hearing those numbers though, it just kind of tells you that just applying alone,
right,
isn't really fruitful. Like right now, especially, and you mentioned last year. Well, this year things have changed even more. So
with AI, it's just all bets are off. It's why we keep just preaching and preaching and preaching this. It's just, we can't emphasize it enough. The job boards are, and look, most of us are old enough to remember the days when we would fax in our resume, answer the ad in the Washington Post. You remember, right? And that's how we were trained to do it. And so we just transferred that skill over to the digital world, but it doesn't work anymore, because the second the digital thing happened, everybody could flood the market because it was just the click of a button. Mm-hmm. And now, of course, with the AT, I mean, we all know, right? Because of the ATSs, and now because of AI, and then there's Doge and all the things, it just crowds and crowds and crowds and crowds and crowds. And so that easy, to fill tool, that easy button tool, now has just made it near impossible, because it's just really increased the, the competition. So anyway, networking, that's our goal. Helen.
Thanks. I wanted to share, I've had a really interesting thing that kind of cascaded from a networking event that I did in May that led to the informational interview that I'm doing today, because I went to a happy hour associated with a conference in my industry. I couldn't afford to go to the conference, but I could go to the happy hour afterwards. I had a conversation with somebody who then invited me to a little coffee chat that happens pretty regularly in the association space, which is my community. So that community also had a LinkedIn group. So I joined the LinkedIn group, and somebody 3 days ago posted a job to that LinkedIn group saying, sorry, I haven't been making it to the chats, but here's a job that's available at my organization. It is an organization that I have a lot of adjacent experience to, and it is a position at the level that I'm looking for with the salary that I've been looking for. And so this person is in this organization, doesn't know me, but we're having a conversation today so that he can decide whether to recommend me for the job. So that, I think, is completely out of networking. It's not an invisible job, but the conversations and the network I've been doing, he knows that somebody that's coming out of this LinkedIn group is somebody that's been vetted by the group. So even though he hasn't met me, he's prepared to have a conversation with me and recommend me for the job.
So Helen,
cross your fingers for me.
just to put a little emphasis on your story, what you may not know, we have shared this before. So this group has been around since the beginning of COVID. Okay, for obvious reasons, that's why we started. Well, Kimberly, somebody in your network who you would know, she was on this call, and at the time, and she's also in the same community as you are. At the time, She didn't know about the coffee chat that you're talking about. You and I, we obviously know what we're talking about. She found out about that coffee chat on this call. She goes over to the coffee chat. On that call, the exact same things happening to you happened to her. On that call was an individual from an association. She's in the membership world. Watch this. Kimberly had already applied to that job, never heard back. She gets on the coffee chat call. The VP of whatever at that organization says, hey, we've got this membership director opening. She's like, hey, I'm qualified. She goes, send me your resume. And she did, and she got hired. And she stayed there for years. Literally the stuff that you're talking about. But she heard about it here and went over there. And the point is that that's how it happens. It is relational. And not only that, it's oftentimes community-based. And that's something that we talk about here, but Helen, since you just mentioned this, I'm going to puddle jump onto that conversation. So as a career coach, I have different concepts. One of them is what I call lane versus community. And I'd like, for those of you who've never heard me talk about this, I'd like you to write this down. It's really, really helpful. So your lane is what you do. Your community is who you do it for. Your lane is your profession. You're a marketer, you're a customer service person, you're a CPO, you're whatever you are. Your community is the industry, mission, or sector that you serve, or I should say may serve. Not all of you have a defined community, and that's fine. Some of you are just like marketer, and you could do a nonprofit, for-profit, but a lot of you do have a community. Helen has the association community. Mark has the banking community. Monica had the international community, and now she's shifting over to veterans. But the point is that a lot of you have a community, or at least a community you've come from, or communities that you've come from. Because here, even though you might say, which a lot of you are saying, oh, I'm open to lots of things, and that's fine, and you might be. Guess what? The employer doesn't think that way. The employer looks at your resume and they're like, oh, Jackie comes from community A, B, and C, industry A, B, and C. We are industry B. We are industry B. We like that we believe that Jackie has an understanding of our industry, understanding of our community. She speaks the jargon. She gets the lingo. She understands our customers. It's going to be a shorter learning curve for Jackie if she comes to our. So you're thinking open-minded. They're not thinking open-minded typically. Occasionally they are. Typically they're not. They want alignment. So if you go ahead and intentionally target the communities that you have come from, you're going to be a safer choice. And that's what employers are looking for. They want to minimize their risk. You're a safer choice if you go after the communities that you came from, where possible. Now, sometimes you have a personal alignment, like Monica has a personal connection to the veteran community, and that can certainly be helpful. But the point is, there's some connection there. There's something that says to the employer, you are less of a risk. Whereas if you're coming completely outside of their sector, to them, it's more risky because you have a bigger learning curve. Okay, so think about community, and then the next piece of this is go, and I use a fishing metaphor a lot these days, go fish in that pond. Helen fishes all the time in the association pond. It's a pond. I know, I'm in that pond. We do the networking thing all the time, right? We're just all, who's doing what, right? Communities do that often. The tech industry, commercial real estate industry, the banking industry, pick your industry, healthcare, higher education, GovCon, whatever. A lot of times people know who's moving where, who's doing what's happening in the sector, what are the changes. If you can find not just diverse networking groups like this, which we're all from different sectors, I get that, and do this, but also go find your fish ponds. Go find the associations who are in your sector, the meetup groups of people in your sector, the LinkedIn groups of people in your sector, the off the grid little quiet groups that are not on LinkedIn and Meetup, and right? People do those things. If you can, and one of the ways to find that out, folks, is when you talk to people in your sector, which you should be doing, even people who you used to work with, Just simply say to them, are there any industry networking groups that you're a part of? Ask the question. Are there? And one person says, well, yeah, there's this little coffee thing that I'm part of. Can you invite me? And then you go to that group. Hey, everybody, are there other networking groups that you're, and all of a sudden you've got all these different groups that are in your sector that you could be part of. And sometimes what happens, and Helen and I have both seen this, you go to one group and now you go to another, and now you're starting to see the same people. And it's like, cheers, everybody knows your name. Because now, right, you're part of the community and you're being seen over and over. And that actually builds credibility. Oh, you're really part of us. Oh, yeah. Arm around the shoulder. Hey, Mark, great to see you again. Great to see you again. And that there's a trust, an inherent trust that's actually built, right? When you're seen multiple times. Is this making sense? Pretty important. Algie or Vern, any other thoughts on this?
Well, one other, as we're talking about relationships, and one other area that may be untapped for some of you is contacts count. We call them dormant relationships.
Yep.
So look at your resume, and 10 years ago you were at ABC Company. Is there someone at ABC Company that you had a great relationship with? That you really knew each other well. You knew your skills and abilities. They knew your personality. They knew your communication style. And a lot of people, when we work with clients, saying, "Oh my God, I couldn't call them. It was 10 years ago. What do I say?" Typically, really, all you need to do is call them, send them an email. Hey, I was thinking about the project you worked on 10 years ago, or I saw your name on LinkedIn and whatever. And trust me, you'll have a good conversation with them. Maybe it goes nowhere, but the fact of the matter is, for the last 10 years, they've been in different places. They have a different network. You never know where reaching out to one of them can connect you to potential opportunity.
All right. Another story. Sorry, Vern, you're calling them out. Here's the story. Just happened. Exactly that, but on my own desk. So I was doing a search for a nonprofit, and it was a marketing manager search. And so my hiring manager's name is Becky. Okay. So I'm doing the search and I got all the people and I've got 3 finalists and they've gone through the process and they're ready to do the final round. The last minute, I'm talking the last minute on Tuesday night, I get this text from Becky and she goes, hey, this former employee, Vern, to your point, this former employee from 15 years ago saw the posting, reached out to Becky. I said, hey, is it too late? Can I apply? The hiring manager texted me on a Tuesday night and she goes, hey, asking my permission, the hiring manager asking my permission, can we slip him into the mix? And I'm like, okay. Why did I say okay? Because it was a referral from this person, right? If it had just been a last minute resume, I probably would have said, we already have our finalists. Hey, but this trusted relationship made me say, sure. That next morning, 8:30, I text Tony. I'm like, hey, he referred you. Can you talk to me at 10? He said, sure. Slipped him into the mix. Now he's one of 4 finalist candidates. We should rush him through the process. And legit, he ended up being the top candidate on his own merits, even though he was referred in. Becky was very objective in the rest of the process. Legit, he was the top candidate. He got hired. He started on Monday. Okay. This is the power of, I'm glad we're having such a deep conversation about networking. And Vern, that you brought up the dormant relationships. Huge, huge. People want to hear from you. If you left on a good note, if you had a good relationship, it could be 25 years ago. It doesn't matter. People will be like, Monica, blast from the past. How are you? And it's like as if no time has ever passed. And you just have this big catch-up call, which is fun. And then you can say, what's going on with you, Sally? And Sally says, what's going on with you, Monica? And all of a sudden you're having this warm conversation and you never know what can happen, which is actually how Vern got to this call. We've talked about this. He and I we were part of an HR networking group, hadn't seen each other for 10 years or something. And then somebody in this group said, hey, Vern, let me tell you about this group. And he calls me out of the blue and he's been here ever since. Okay. blasts from the past is a really, really important conversation to have. Alki, any thoughts?
I was going to say, not so much on the dormant relationship part, but similar. I had a search story, and typically when we get searches, we're being tasked to go find people for our clients. But occasionally they will say, hey, can you add this person in from wherever? And I had one of those last year as well. They didn't ultimately get hired for the main position, but while I was recruiting, my client said, hey, I just got a referral. Somebody thought this person might be great for my role. She wasn't, but the hiring manager liked her so much, she actually created a position for her because she liked her so much during the interview process. She just wanted to do something with her.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much the dormant relationship, but yeah, she hired her in a contract, in a contractor type 90-day space. But she was trying to figure out how could I hire her because I don't want to lose her. But she came from a referral. A lot of times when this happens, I don't know about sure, but a lot of times they're like, wait a minute, I'm doing the recruiting for you. But if they have someone that comes in and they're open to it, certain searches we allow for that. Like, as long as we're searching, they can come from anywhere. But yeah, she actually created a space because she liked this candidate so much. I had a chance to meet her and talk to her as well and kind of grease the gears a little bit as well on, what she needed to do. But her personality fit exactly what they liked. So all these things we're saying today, though, that, no, there's no guarantees. It's not automatic. This is a rough job market right now. But what we're talking about today, though, is various unconventional ways to find opportunities and to go about it from dormant, rekindling dormant relationships. I mean, I've been in this ride with a lot of the people who've been on this call for the last year or maybe year and a half. For some of you on this call, I've been around long enough to know that you and other people that I work with are still looking after months and months and months and months. And a lot of people are like, yep, tried that out. You tried that. And I'm always throwing out, well, hey, here's 50 other things. Have you tried this? Have you looked over here yet? Have you even visited that side of town? Go on a different side of town, try a whole different industry. Go down your Rolodex like Vern is saying, go through old emails and just look and see. Go through LinkedIn and just browse around different groups. You usually go in the front door, go in the back door, and just knock around because we're in a market where a lot of people are pivoting. A lot of people are giving up and leaving their fields because some fields are kind of frozen right now. A lot of industries, a lot of sectors, a lot of markets are completely frozen because if they're bringing 9 data centers to Northern Virginia or certain areas, that does something. It opens something and it closes something as well. So there is a lot going on right now. We're not, I call it the multiverse. I just tell everybody we're in the multiverse right now because a lot of things are upside down. It's funny, sure, you were calling the association space a pond, and I was like, I beg to differ. That's like a lake or a sea because the association space is just you guys are different creatures. You network, you shake hands, you hug,
True.
you have
We
coffee,
do. We
you have
hug a
chat.
lot.
It's a different space. The mission and nonprofit space is similar as well, where everybody is kind of like, oh, hey, Mark, and hey, Helen, how are you? Come on in.
We
Other
got to figure we're
spaces,
in the business of building communities.
But that is
So
what we do, right?
yep.
Yeah.
Other spaces, on the other hand, are like, what do you mean? Like, do we have a job hiring? Look at the job board. Do you see a
Right.
job there? Thank you. Get out of here. You don't have a job. So it's different in different spaces. So
Sure.
you have to be willing to flex and do some yoga right now until things settle down.
Yeah, no, it's very, very true. Every community is different, and yet there are communities, right? So playing in that fish pond really, really can help because at least you're adjacent to the other fishies and you're hearing about things. Just to springboard off of this, Alki, you were suggesting that very, very rightly that the sectors are shifting with AI and all these things. One of the things that I've been doing with my career coaching clients recently to I think, great positive effect is using AI to help analyze the job market. Here's what I mean by that. Particularly for folks whose jobs, the job title or the role has been shifted, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, look, AI, I use Claude. Look, here's the person's background. Here's their skill set. Here are their interests. They typically would have gone here, here, here. analyze this for me. What are the opportunities now? The person wants to make a pivot or needs to make a pivot. Break this down, and then break that down, and then break that down, and then break that down. Okay. Even right now, I coach all kinds of people. I'm actually coaching a recent grad right now, and he wants to get into the data analytics world. Well, that world is being disrupted. So I went in and I'm like, well, what about this? Well, how, and it just gives me all these things. I said, well, and then we got into the granular, right? Of, well, he should emphasize this skill, but not that skill because of this and because of that. AI can be super helpful, especially if you're trying to make some sort of pivot, to say, what are my opportunities? Where are my strengths? Write this down. What are my gaps? Ask it. What are my gaps? How can I overcome it? And in that guy's case, it was like, well, there's a certificate in this, or upgrade your skill in that, or emphasize this. What are my gaps? How can I overcome it? You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised because it can be kind of insightful, right? Bye, Helen. It can be kind of insightful to help you say, look, here's what's realistic, here's what's not, and here's what you can do to potentially overcome it. So highly recommend that.
To that same exercise, you made me think of putting, I don't use AI. Well, if you Google something, you're using AI. So, but something that could be cool to put in as well for you all is, who's hiring people like me right now?
Exactly. That's
And
right.
maybe feed it your resume or a couple bullet points from your background or whatever your title is. Who's hiring marketing directors with 12 years of experience right now? What
And
industries, what companies, what organizations?
And actually, to that point, yes, exactly. That's another great prompt. But no, do absolutely upload your resume, upload your LinkedIn, upload anything else about yourself that would be helpful or relevant. You want to feed it as much information as possible. In fact, for those of you, I don't know, I'm a Claude person. I don't do Chat or Gemini right now, but in Claude, you can create a project. Create that project, then you can upload files and it'll just be a running project, right? So you upload your resume, LinkedIn, all these things, and then start asking it questions. Exactly to Alfie's point, right? Which sectors are hiring? What kind of roles? Who should I be targeting? You can actually ask it to give you names of people. It'll do and use the term deep research. Please do deep research. And then it'll go out to the web and it'll start finding. You can say, find LinkedIn profile, the names of the names of people, and find their LinkedIn profiles of the people I should be reaching out to. What level? So, for example, this young person that I'm coaching, Gabe, yesterday. Well, guess what? We're not going to go after Michael. So although Michael, I'd probably like you to meet him anyway, but classically, I shouldn't go after a CTO if I'm trying to get an entry-level person a job. That's ridiculous, right? You're like 5 levels at least removed from that level. And AI was very clear about that. Don't go after this level, go after this level. And here's why. Okay. Now, it's not always correct, but at least it'll give you some insight when you're thinking about with whom should I be networking? What are those roles? What are the industries? How are different sectors being disrupted? You can put all kinds of prompts in there. But again, if you keep it in the project, it's a little more seamless, right? Because it'll remember it has all the rest of the chat thread, and you can continue to just keep asking it questions. But at whatever it tells you, go one level deeper, go one level deeper, go one level deeper, because it's not going to tell you everything at once. It's not going to overwhelm you. You have to keep prompting it to go to the next level to get more insight. And Michael, I know you've been bobbing your head because you're an IT guy. Anything else you want to share about this?
No, I think you said everything perfect. I use the projects the same way in ChatGPT, and what it does, it trains on itself, so its answers will know what to answer based upon, oh, he had a follow-up question, 10 prompts ago. So let me put that in there. So it, is more effective that way.
Correct. And just to springboard off of this, use it for your interview preps all over the place. And I don't just mean pop in your resume and pop in the job description, although that too. Just you can start with that to say, okay, which accomplishment story should I be highlighting? Right, what skills should I be talking about? Not just to help you with your past-based storytelling, although yes, you should, but the future. Well, have AI analyze the industry, analyze this company, analyze the role. What are their challenges? What's going on? What kind of questions should I be asking them? What are the things, the challenges that I might be needing to overcome? Like, use a windshield lens, not just a rear view mirror lens. Rear view mirror is about you and your background and your fit. Great. Windshield is, what's this role about? What's this company about? What's this sector about? How can I fit in? How can I add value? How can I solve challenges? And what challenges should I be looking at? Again, you ask it these questions, it'll give you some high level response, probably some categories. Look at each category and it'll probably give you like 3 bullets. Well, take those bullets and go, more. Tell me more about this. Tell me more about that. You got to be strategic when you're using the tool. And I'm telling you, it can come up with incredible insights you'd never, ever think about on your own. It's doing the deep research across the web. Research it would take you hours and hours to do, but it'll do it in 2 seconds, not even 2 seconds, right? But then you relate it to yourself.
I just uploaded all my ChatGPT prompts for people. And what you could do, and this is where all my prompts are saved, there's a site called promptfolder.com that is free. You can create folders and put it, and all you got to do is copy a prompt and put it in, whatever tool you want. So that's how I keep all my prompts, because they grow over a period of time.
Right. It's true. But really, it's just about being strategic. That's what they say with AI. It's not about the tool. It's about how you use the tool. And if you think to yourself, what do I need? If you didn't have AI, which most of us didn't until recently, and you were just doing your own research, you were just doing your own thinking, how are you thinking? What do I need to know about the company, about the role, about my fit, about this, about that? Put it in there. It will likely give you much deeper analysis than you could ever come up with on your own. In fact, Mark, I know you and I have used this to success.
I think briefly, in addition to AI, I can speak for myself. A lot of the coaching I've done over the last year has been more so, hey, Alki, I need a job right now. I'm searching, but I can't find anything. So yeah, let me just schedule some time to talk to you. And then and just went through everything about all the prompts with AI and ways to get insights and ways to be more strategic. And we just talked about, what can you do differently? What I wish, and some people do, and I don't know about Sure, but what I wish, and not everybody can afford coaches as well, whether it's me, Sure, or whomever else, but there's AI, but there's also grabbing recruiters like us and career coaches. Again, might be a budget thing, or you may have to work something out. Not everybody can afford coaching, but if you could, and what I wish a lot of the people that I've coached, because I offer it, is let's pause the job search for 1 second and let's just look at you, like Shira said. What do you offer? What are your gaps? How relevant are you even from January to now, or from 2025 to 2026, and what's going on? What's new in your industry? Who's hiring? Who's not hiring? You might need to shift around. You've got this thing at the top of your resume, your header, that's you've been rocking with for the last year and a half, but it might be time to change that, flip it, erase it, delete it, edit it, all the things, all the points Sure was just making, that AI can do a lot of things and give you insights. But then there's the nuance of talking to a human who can just go, all right, let me tell you about your 10 years and what's changed and what I'm seeing as a recruiter and as a coach. I actually think this is what you should be doing with your time. Yeah, you're applying. Where are you applying? Okay, here, and here. Indeed, yada, yada. What do you find? What are your results? Okay, you're not getting anything. So let's try tweaking something. But let's look at what you're working with. All the things Shira just talked about that AI can give you. And I just had a candidate yesterday tell me, yep, Alki, there's this job I just applied for. Here's the description. Take a look at it. And they were like, yep, I fed my resume into AI and it gave me a 90% score. So like, all right, I score your resume at 90%. And I was like, yep, that's great. You got some good insights. And that's what it's trained to do. However, what if the employer's scores you differently? What if they say, yeah, you matched everything that we gave you in words, but that's an old job description. We're actually looking for some other types of nuances and things like that. So while AI is great to Shira's point for insights, what's happening in the market, who's hiring, who's not hiring, and you should be taking advantage of every possible resource and tool that you can. Um, if nothing else, be thinking about like right now, what's shifted, what's changed, what you might need to change or adjust. You may need to pivot. I'm not saying you change your entire career, but you may need to pivot in your approach, is what we're talking about a lot today, is going to new ponds or going to the same ponds, talking to new people, doing different things.
All right, we have spent a long time on networking. We haven't even gotten to your questions. All right, so let's just open this up. Anybody have anything else that they'd like to ask about, talk about, so we can be as helpful as possible?
Well, I have a question as usual. You know, out in the industry, it's hard to know who to trust on advice about LinkedIn.
Mm,
Okay.
mm.
Because and so I'm trying to right now redo my LinkedIn to become more findable because I used to 5 years ago, recruiters, external recruiters would call me all the time. Now it's crickets. So I'm trying to redo it. And, just in the headline alone, you'll see people with regular pipelines and this gentleman, Kevin D. Turner, who's supposed to be a LinkedIn guru, said, no, you're supposed to use the headline emojis. And everybody else is saying the opposite. And I'm trying to figure out how the heck do you determine the right way? Is there any thoughts on that?
The headline emojis, meaning like the little icons like diamonds and things like that.
Yeah, it looks like an upside down screwdriver if you look close.
Oh, that and Alki, have you heard anything about this?
No, it's not
Okay.
ringing a bell with me either. No.
So the only thing I can
Which-
tell you,
which
and
emoji?
this is the, oh, sorry, Alki.
Which emoji?
He said it looks,
Pipeline emoji. If you look at
he
my
says
headline,
to not use the pipeline, but but the
Yeah.
other, not the
Oh,
pipe.
the
I use
line.
the pipeline all the time, but the other one that you're talking about, is what, like an upside down screwdriver?
yeah,
You may have to show it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you can find it and then share your screen. But here's what I can tell you, because I don't know about that. But as a recruiter, whenever I go and look for people, I have noticed over and over and over again, whatever title I put in the database, in the search bar, which is the database, the people who have that title in the first few words of their headline are the ones that come up. I mean, that should be almost kind of self-evident, but a lot of people don't know that. And so what I found is that a lot of job seekers will sort of have these generic words in their headline, but not necessarily related to the title. If you have the title, so in your case, Michael, CTO, right? Chief Technical Officer, that kind of thing, that's going to be more findable than anything else that you can put in, because LinkedIn goes with the first few words. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And have various versions of those words, because that's really how recruiters are sourcing.
So I just put an image snapshot of the headline. And in my headline, they're pipeline emojis. If you look real close, they look like up down, but you wouldn't know if you're just looking, right? So
So you're saying the pipeline that you're using is not the normal pipeline?
correct.
Oh, that I didn't know. Do you
And
have,
and what
this is
about
being
it?
used- yeah, what's different about it?
So what Kevin Turner told me was the algorithm treats this as an or, not as an and.
Mhm.
So therefore, as chief technology officer or chief architect, or so all those words won't show up together to be,
Mm.
It treats so that the regular pipeline is read by LinkedIn as an or.
Yes.
So this is very interesting.
I heard
So
something about that.
So you're saying, if you just have like an icon, something else, then it's fine. Then it'll see as and.
Yep.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Michael, is it with all of those ors, basically you're communicating to a recruiter or anyone else on LinkedIn that these are all different roles that you have skills and abilities to excel in?
Oh, it breaks
No.
up every word. So instead of chief technology officer, it's chief, and then technology, and then officer, then the next word.
Right. So it's about more people being able to find you in
Yes.
particular. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Me, so wait, so it's make sure we're getting this. Let's say it this way. Is Kevin suggesting that it's not good to use a regular pipeline anymore?
Yes.
Okay. He is suggesting to use an icon.
The emoji. Yep.
So just for everybody's clarity, so when we keep saying the word pipeline, here's what we mean. And here's what Kevin is saying not to do. Everybody look at your keyboard. Look at the enter key on the right side. There's a key right above it. If you hit shift and that key, that's what we call a pipeline. I've been using that for years.
Yeah.
Kevin is suggesting don't do that when you're separating your keywords in your headline because it's reading it as an or.
Correct.
Right. So instead, and so I'm gonna everyone, if you go to, I'm gonna do this for you. There is a link, and it's called LinkedIn friendly bullets. I'm going to pop this into chat. Okay, if you all go here, these are like icons. They're LinkedIn friendly bullets, LinkedIn friendly icons. There's stars and checks and this and that. If you pick one of those, like for example, if you go down the page, they do have, let's see, are there any straight up and down lines? Well, anyway, in mine, I happen to use the diamond. It doesn't really matter, but let's just say you pick the diamond under the section that says bullets. You can use that as the demarcation between your various phrases. And from what Michael is saying, from what Kevin is saying, that's going to make you come up better in searches because then it'll see it as chief technical officer and then chief architect. Like it'll actually it'll put your phrases together.
Correct. And I put Kevin's link there too.
Okay.
I've been following and talking to him for a year and a half. So
great. Thank you for this.
So what's interesting is while you were going there, I Googled, which isn't the most expert answer to just throw this into Google and see what the AI overview says. But before I even shared that, I had heard that before. On the one hand, I heard that before. And as far as the algorithms are concerned, it can, I'm not arguing with that. I heard that before, that it was something, I don't know, I think I heard it last year and I was like, oh, okay, that can make a difference with some people. Okay, we're in that world now. Shira and I are like, but LinkedIn is LinkedIn, but the algorithms do funny dances with things. So anyway, I'm not going to argue with Kevin on that at all. And I heard that before. I will say, even before I read this, as a recruiter for Shira and I, we're going to throw in CTO or whatever and a couple of other things. And we're going to get a bunch of candidates and we're going to go, for the most part, depending on what we're looking for, we're going to go, oh, this is great. There's like 55 people, 1,000, and now we can narrow it down. So we're going to find somebody. It's not going to be a problem for us. There's going to be people there. I'm curious the level, like the difference that this makes for you all as job seekers, given your field, because Shira and I can just about find whoever we want. It's not going to stop us from finding the people that we want. But in this big world of LinkedIn, I am curious if the exponent that it affects people. Google said use the vertical bar as your primary separator. It is the most effective choice for LinkedIn SEO, allowing algorithms and recruiters to easily parse distinct searchable words without confusing titles. Then it goes into two other examples of how this is used. One of them put it in brackets, which could be to Kevin's point. And I don't know who's going to use brackets or if this isn't using the brackets, but it's interesting because you see how you can go online and find all kinds of information, whereas, Kevin, he's a source, an incredible source, versus you can go online and find things. I'm saying
Who's
Shira
to
and I
say? And that's what, Michael,
find
that
just
was your
about,
point. You hear
yeah,
all kinds of conflicting things. Who's to say what's
Right.
the accurate?
Yep.
Look, we do the best that we can, but what I can tell you pretty definitively is that you will definitely increase your likelihood of getting seen if you have the exact phrase of the title. I recognize we all have different shades of titles, but the closer you are to the actual title that you're looking for, the more likely it is that when that recruiter is looking for that title, you will come up. That we can tell you.
1000%.
Yeah.
And here's some best practices that when I Googled it about pipeline emojis on headlines, it gave me these best practices. And number 2 on it is avoid the pipeline symbol.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's just, you get different advice and it's like, Huda. And when you help somebody else, then you're like, oh, I don't want to tell them the wrong thing.
This recruiter, for me, what I teach and preach, and Shira said something to that effect a second ago, is if using you, if you're a chief technology officer, put that, brand yourself as a chief technology officer. If you're a chief technology officer searching for chief technology officer roles, you definitely put that. If you're a chief technology officer searching for a chief strategist role, or you want to brand yourself, it's really, you should really lead with either who do you want to brand yourself as going forward for what you're looking for, who do you want to find you, or has your whole career been CTO and you want to be discovered that way as well? So us recruiters don't have to look too far. We can see your hand raised. The first hand that's raised for us is putting, as Shira just said, put who you are and what you're looking for and how you want to brand yourself. Lead with that. These other secondary things that you do, like skills or assets, that, in some fields you may put 3. Like, yeah, I'm a communications director, but I also am marketing as well. There's ways to do those 2 things, but it's really best to, and with the algorithms today and all the noise online, it is really best to brand yourself as that one thing.
And one other little weedy comment about this has occurred to me. So when we're searching for people, sometimes we will put in the full title and sometimes we'll put in the acronym. And look at it, Michael's Zoom name. He put CTO/chief architect. So Michael, I don't know what your LinkedIn says right now, but here's an example for you. You can say, right, chief technical officer, and then in parentheses, CTO. That will give you more bang for your buck. Because if I'm putting in CTO, if I'm putting in chief technical officer, you're both.
Well, that's one of those other questions I have is when there's multiple, say titles.
I would do that. And then if there are other versions of that, like, and then maybe after that, it's, information technology, you put that phrase in there somewhere. Now I recognize not every profession has jargon, but some do, like learning and development is L&D, you can play with this a little bit. Just be thinking critically. If you were the recruiter looking for yourself, what kind of keywords would you be putting in there? And then how can you creatively frame that into your headline so that you're more findable?
So my grocery store example, I'm going in looking for mustard. I'm looking at the condiments thing. I'm going straight to that aisle. I'm going where the mustard is. I'm going to start looking at the mustards, ketchup, cereal. I'm looking at that branding and I'm going to that aisle. That's how we think as recruiters, usually.
Yeah. Thanks.
Monica, you've been patient.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, Jackie. Monica had her hand up and then we'll get to
sorry.
No worries.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. I was just going to add to something that Michael said maybe 5 minutes ago. I've noticed that the applicant tracking system Workday, especially in other ones, they changed, what they do is they import your resume and then they put it into this editable window. But in my resume has bullets and they always garble the bullets. They turn into this square with question marks. And so what I was doing was I was doing a search and replace and making it hyphen hyphen space, but apparently that's wrong. And you can do an ASCII bullet. And so when you do an ASCII bullet, it looks correct. And so I've just throwing that out there that the ASCII bullets are not only good for LinkedIn, they're good for these applicant tracking systems that turn your word bullets into this question mark with a square around it, which I would assume is messing up your application.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the ASCII bullets. Do either Michael or Monica, do you have something you can put in the chat to help us
Yeah,
do
well,
that?
I can do that. Yeah, yeah, ASCII bullets it's like you just hold down the alt and then you put a number, but you can copy it from various things. But yeah, I'll put an ASCII bullet in. But yeah, all you do is then just do a search and replace for the question mark thing and then put in the ASCII bullet. But my impression is, or my understanding is that if it looks correct in the applicant tracking system, then it is correct. But like Workday, for example, it doesn't give you a bullet option. So all your bullets have been changed into this crazy question mark with a square around it, and then you either have to know how to do an ASCII bullet, which I do, or you have to put, dash dash or, one dash,
Mhm.
which,
Do you upload
Are
a
you
Word
saying,
document or a PDF? Because I was
I
told PDFs don't get modified like a Word document in
But they don't, but
situations
sometimes
like.
they don't see the keywords either sometimes, depending on the
but
Yeah, well,
Monica, are you,
I always upload a Word doc, I mean a PDF. But
Okay.
like I said, in Workday particularly, it has this window that, has your most recent job experience, and it's all the bullets are always turned into this crazy question mark thing.
Interesting.
And so, then there is no option then to do a bullet. But if you know how to do an ASCII bullet, then that solves that. So I'll put an ASCII bullet into the chat. But
Thank
all you
you.
have to do is copy it, and then you
Okay.
can put it in the Workday. Now, not that it's gotten me anywhere, but I think in the first couple of months I was either ignoring these weird question mark things, or I was turning them into two hyphens, which apparently is wrong.
Okay. Thank
are,
you, Monica. This is great. Alki,
are,
I just want to, just for sake of time, I wanted to get to Jackie unless there's something quick. Alki, was there something quick you wanted to share?
oh, go ahead, Jackie. We can circle back.
Okay. So I actually have two questions. So my background's in marketing
Mhm.
and I haven't worked in marketing for years. So right now I'm doing retail because I need a job to make money.
Sure.
Would you suggest anything that I could do to try to get back into it? So on my resume, it's just a one page and I try to like limit it to a 10-year ratio. Would you have any ideas on that? And the next question was, if a person's trying to get into a particular industry, do you think it's a good idea to volunteer?
So those are actually very big questions. We're going to put me, Alki, and Vern will put our contact information there because we do offer like free 30-minute little,
Okay.
conversation. Because I think what you're talking about is actually bigger. And one quick thing I will say to you is that, and this is for anybody on this call, which I think is most of us, where we're fairly seasoned, do not do a one-page resume. It makes you look actually underqualified. The only people that should be doing one-pagers are recent grads. If you do it and you're a seasoned person, it makes you look like not substantive enough. So a two-page resume gives you space to actually really flesh out your experience. And that's what employers want to see. Do you have substance? Okay. So that's a real quick, change. As far as volunteering, yes, if you are able to find a volunteer role that is as much adjacent to what you're looking for as possible, meaning remember there's lane and community. So if you're shifting your community, you're shifting your sector, and you can volunteer using your lane skills, that can be helpful to show that community, yes, I'm serious, yes, I'm interested, and yes, I'm committed to that. But again, that's a longer conversation. But yeah, you can do that. You just got to do it with intention.
Just real quick to add on to that, Jackie, about volunteering. Recognize if I'm recruiting you, I have a piece of paper and I can ask you questions and you can give me the best answer in the world, but you may not be able to actually do that. When you're volunteering, you're actually doing it. They're seeing your communication skills. They're seeing your behavior. They're seeing your getting getting things done on time. So that lends so much more credibility to your who you are as a person and why somebody should hire you.
Exactly. Alki, any other thoughts on that?
Thanks.
No, that's all that is on point. And it's funny. I hear you, Jackie, on the one pager, because I tell people about one pagers. They're more so for kind of like the networking and things like that. And it's almost like a business card for the people who do them. If you're meeting people and you're not wanting to share everybody, you're worried about all your experience, or you're going to be age biased and all that kind of stuff, and you're meeting people and you want to send some people some bullet points of kind of what you've done, some highlights and things like that, to Shira's point, that's a good idea for actual applying and presenting yourself fully. You can capture a lot of things that way, because I push that, but it gets tougher for like a quote unquote formal submission. It is tricky, to Shira's point.
They want depth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, don't be afraid of a 3-pager. I know that sounds like heretical, but don't worry about that. Don't give them 5, okay? If you go on to a 3rd page, it's okay if you have what to say, and particularly if your first 2 pages are your substantive accomplishments, and then your 3rd page is education or publications or awards or, you know, that kind of thing, and you want to stick that on a 3rd page, you're not going to get screened out because you have 3 pages. Just make sure that whatever you do say is cogent. That's it. Just don't overshare, right? Don't give them 5 pages. It's not a CV, academic CV. But don't be afraid of going on to a 3rd page if you have to, if it's appropriate.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up the call. So for those of you like Jackie who are new to the call, we're going to formally end the call, but then I'm going to offer a short prayer call at the end of this for those who want to stay on. Okay. So with that, look forward to seeing you all in a couple of weeks. Feel free to bring your friends. We've got some room and we're happy to help out. Have a blessed day, everyone.
Bye, everybody.